Alright, welcome in everybody. If you are an Overwatch fan, if you like Overwatch in any way, or if you're even an ex-Overwatch fan and you used to play the game a whole bunch, or you still play the game a whole bunch, stick with me here because this is the video for you. This is the video to end all Overwatch videos. Now, it's not going to be curated and all nice little animations and things like that, which I would like to do, and I've worked on it anyways. We're not going to go into that kind of stuff. But I would like to go over all of the information regarding Overwatch as a development product. This is really, really important. What do I mean by Overwatch as a development product? And in comparison to other games as development products. Now, I'm defining development products very specifically as products that allow you to create other products with that thing. So, for example, we could pick the food industry, pretty simple. If I buy some tomatoes, I can cut those tomatoes up, and therefore they go into a whole bunch of other types of meals. Now, if I take something like a car, I go out and I buy a car, I can actually use that car to create more products. I can use that vehicle to drive things around, to create a business, to tow things, to all that kind of stuff. There's a bunch of different things in that. And some of the best products in the world, the largest, even, we'll scale this down a little bit, the best video game products in the world actually allow for people to create services from the products that have been provided. Now, I'm going to very clearly directly reference things like Roblox, for example. Minecraft is another big one. I'll even point out Counter-Strike is a whole other thing. There's a variety of different games out there too, and even Fortnite in such a way has these abilities and has the systems to do this. And actually the large majority of games that come out have the functionality for people to build other services on top of them. Now, actually, let me pull this up here. I like to host servers for my community. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this is, well, because of this right here. I'm going to show off a few back-end servers, no problem. Well, if I want to run a system of any type, I can actually load up a variety of servers. You can see here, for example, we have Minecraft servers, we've got Don't Starve servers, we've got Eco servers, Team Fortress, a million different games. And the reason for this is because the server software, everything that has all the configurations for how the game is played, is actually provided to the users that buy the game. So, and actually, you can actually do it if you haven't bought the game anyways, like pterodactyl, I can't even spell it, eggs. Just so you can see, there's actually systems that I can go in and download a variety of different server softwares and server setups. Right here, you can see there's like hundreds and hundreds of games and hundreds of services that are very, very easy for me to spin up. Steam has a library full of servers. When you go and you buy a game off of Steam, let's see how quickly I can do this without making this video seem too drawn out. And we go to our tools. And I pull this out. Here are a list of servers and systems that one can run to run the game on their computer and have other people log in and have other people, whatever, work within that game. Now, in the back end of these systems, if I was to open up something, and I know I'm not talking about Overwatch just yet, but I'll get to Overwatch in just a second so you guys can have an idea about what the environment is like. If I was to take a server, like let's say our Minecraft lobby, ignore the errors and everything like that, we actually have a series of set configurations that whenever I am to run the server, this is the exact configuration that the server runs at. So this could be all of the settings, including player speed, damage numbers, balance numbers, modifications to whatever server I'm running, ban lists, and also too, because I have access to this backend, I can run other code that then manages this code, so you can actually layer all of your code on top of each other and have interlocking systems that all work together. Not going to go over the specifics of how servers work with ports and connections and databases and all that kind of stuff, but just keep in mind, if you trust me, just trust me here, that basically every single game that you play out there has a form of a server system. Now, you also have to keep in mind, for this not to exist, companies actually have to make steps to not give you access. What do I mean by this? Well, this is something, and I know obviously programmers out there are going to be, raging a little bit, because there are some exceptions to releasing server code public in a way. But if I was to build a server for my game, a lot of this stuff is actually out in the open. I would copy all these files into my whatever server setup I have, my Amazon Web Services, and I would run it as is. And all of the little tiny bits inside the server allow for things like security, allow for things like routing, allow for storage. They hopefully have had all of that set up in such a way that you can just press run, in theory, and let the server run. Now, what makes it really, really difficult, what makes it exceptionally difficult when you're running a server, or actually, let me roll back just a little bit. One of the things that you can expect from your servers is that they don't change. When I have a single tiny bit of data in one of these folders, when I put a period somewhere, that period, it doesn't matter how many times that the game itself updates, the developers come in and decide to change the game, I have that exact variable the exact same every single time. Now, does that mean that people who update their client can't then access my system? Yeah, they can't. Why? Because my system hasn't been updated to whatever the new way of doing things is, whatever it is. But what it also means is that players who want that older experience or want whatever I have set up, they can actually, and I'm not going to say how or whatever, but they can kind of either roll back, or sometimes too, there's even like cross compatibility where you can have a future system load into an older server. That's totally fine. The things that exist that way. Now, this is really, really important when it comes to developing games, because any small modification of a game can completely ruin the game. We all know this when it comes to like games we played where they have gold and they put too much gold into the economy, or they add an unlock, or they add a new character, or they make some change, and it breaks absolutely everything. A good example of this is Minecraft, okay, where when they change up the world generation, there's some cross compatibility, so you can actually like load up parts of the world that were in the older versions, but you have to be in the newest version, but everything remains relatively the same. So you can update things for newer code, but you can still have it run all the stuff in the background that we see here. Now, this is hard to convey to a large company, and I'm not going to go into, we'll mention it here, that it's really important to have a game service and system that can be modified and changed. Because what that does is it adds to the motivation of the developers that are creating whatever system they have. Not everybody works on these systems full time. Not everybody can build plugins for Minecraft or build mods for whatever game and keep it maintained pretty consistently. We've all probably had this before, where one of our favorite games updates and it breaks our entire mod list. We've had that, we've done that. But the big but is when there is a level of staticness to the basic environment, the developers can actually maintain their code. They can maintain their code and do small variation changes to update into the next version. What does this have to do with Overwatch? Well, the problem with Overwatch is it's a closed environment. And a lot of people have done a whole bunch of work to actually create systems that interact with the Overwatch workshop, with the Overwatch system. Now, normally the way that you would do this, if you wanted a private server system and not to give people access to direct stuff, is a system called an API, an application programming interface. And what this does is it means that I can have code running on my computer, and I can send little bits of code out to Blizzard servers and still modify and update whatever I've done and still make changes to whatever I've done, but they're just going to receive that information and let that information kind of exist as is without having to worry about setups. Now, I know I've given you like a very vague, quick blast overview of kind of the expectations of what it means to run a server, and I haven't gone into all the details of where things break, but this is an excellent example. At least I'll show you guys why it's so difficult to maintain secondary projects on top of Blizzard's games. Now, keep in mind, too, guys, those who have played Dota, those who have played Counter-Strike, those who have played pretty much any large-scale game out there, usually they come from a modification of another game environment. So that's just going to be my immediate argument on why, and the function as to why we need, like, why these things need to be functional, and why they should be functional, and why they're potentially profitable when they're functional. But let's take a peek and show why it's not viable for any Overwatch fan who wants to develop and create something to maintain their code and update it for every single change. Now, I'm going to open up a character. Where is this? You can actually see, well, I'll point this out quickly. What we're looking at, take a peek at what we're looking at, whatever, blah, blah, blah. This is actually a GitHub repository of the 6v6 game mode. And really, in the end, this is what most Overwatch stuff should look like. At least that there's some kind of GitHub repository that you can go and download the server code. Because here we have 6v6 adjustments. A lot of you have played it. A lot of you haven't. If you have, come join, or if you haven't, sorry, come join us. It's pug.6v6.info. 6v6.info also you can join. Overwatch1.6v6.info for the Overwatch 1 changes. You can actually see. Anyways, we're not going to go into all that kind of stuff. But this, in theory, this GitHub repository should be a static snapshot of our custom game mode, of the systems that we're running. And in theory, in the way it kind of should work, is that every time Overwatch updates, really we shouldn't have to do almost any update to this kind of configuration that you see here. But why is that not true? Why do we have to continually update and have to continuously change things and have to go in and make modifications? Well, the reason is because we're not loading things from a config to develop the server and create a static snapshot of the server. A lot of the configuration and changes that happen within the Overwatch workshop, you actually have to undo everything that Blizzard has done and rebuild your own. Now, the process of undoing what Blizzard has done means that every single time Blizzard makes a change to a character, you actually have to go in and update the variables and update the way that the hero interacts. Now, let's actually pull up a hero here to make a good example of this. Let's jump into heroes. Let's pull up, I know Venture is a good example. Where is Venture? Venture. All right. So every single one of these systems that I'm going to pull up, I'm going to click through. I know it's a little bit small for some of you guys in the video. But basically our developers, our workshop developers, I want to treat them like real developers, but it's clear Blizzard sees them as Lego builders and doesn't really give a shit about what they're actually doing. They actually have to go in and build custom systems to figure out what the character is doing and then undo those things in the character and then rebuild them in a certain way. So, for example, Venture actually has not a bug or an issue. Well, they've got something. So that isn't the way that a traditional hero would work inside the workshop. And we actually have to create a variable that says, is firing excavator, meaning like, are they firing their gun, right? And then when they're firing their gun, here is all the conditions that allow us to tweak and tune that condition to whatever we want. Now, a default configuration, a good default configuration on good default code means that you're calling all of these variables first. There should never, ever be a calling of variables and then undoing of those variables. Why? Because I just mentioned this earlier. If Blizzard has an update in any way and they change the way that Venture's primary fire works, our developers actually have to go in here and manually, meticulously change every single tiny little bit of code and test and try, and sometimes math doesn't add up, and spend a few hours updating and changing absolutely everything. We'll even point out too, you'll see down below there's a passive section. Let's open this up. There's a damage passive. This is the way that they undo the damage passive. This is a way that they undo the heal passive. Look at the amount of code that's involved with this. There's a way that they undo the knockback, or sorry, not undo the knockback. Actually, I think it's the same here. I can't remember. No, sorry. They undo the knockback and then they change up the alt charge. I can't remember exactly how they've built this here. But all of this work almost needs to be redone every single time there is a change that Blizzard puts out. This shouldn't be the case. What should be the case, and this is very standard in the industry, is that, of course, when you load the game up, let's say we have our custom server code, and we load the server code up, it's just going to ask, well, how do you want this environment to be laid out? How do you want the hero abilities to work? How do you want things to change? I'm going to pull up Team Fortress 2 as an excellent example of this. We'll go over to our console again. Just ignore all that. And we go over to our Scrub Fortress 2 server. I'm going to go into my files. I believe it's in Half-Life 2. Oh, man, I should have looked this up before I said Team Fortress. Okay. And then we go into, you can actually see there's a variety of different settings here. Custom, workshop, readme. Actually, where is it? No. Oh, man, it's been a while since I've been in here. Oh, configurations. Here is literally every single configuration for every single type of game mode. If I click into, let's just take a look at, I don't know, where's a standard one? Message of the day. It actually, well, that's not too complicated. Let's pick something else. Map cycle quick play. There's all the maps that we put into the cycle. You can see there's different variations of the game mode. Server casual config. There we go. You can see MP Tournament 1, MP Tournament Ready mode. These are all of the variations and settings and whatnot that when the server is loaded up, it is only looking at these things. It is only going, okay, we need this information. So if Valve comes in a little bit later and decides, oh, you know what? We're going to go change a way a character works. We're going to go introduce a new thing. Most of the time, not always all the time, you're actually just able to rerun your server, run the updates. It pushes updates to the basic code. So for example, let's just an example here. There's a certain amount of math that decides like what is the angle or what is the line between you and an enemy. If Valve comes in and decides, hey, I don't like the way that code works, and they swap that out 90% of the time, whatever, that it's not going to matter, right? Your system updates, it changes the way it calculates the distance in between two people and the line in between them, and then it just kind of works. Not always true. Again, programmers, get off my ass. It's pretty basic. But what shouldn't happen is for it to load in the math of how the line works from one place to another. We shouldn't have to then disable it and disable it in a very specific way and then re-enable a new version of ours if we want to actually rewrite how that type of code works, how that interaction works. Again, I know there's some programmers out there that are, I hear them in the back of my head. There's no exact, but you guys obviously, hopefully know what I mean in terms of workflow and anyways. Now, this is where the motivation to maintain these kind of servers comes up. Because for me, if I want to run a server with my configurations as is, here's a Team Fortress server, it just runs. It just runs. I set my configuration, I set my updates, I set my map list, I set my changes, I set everything, and I forget about it. And I can probably forget about it for years. It doesn't matter if they change the damage numbers on a certain character or they update us. And again, programmers, I know there's exceptions to this, and there's way. It doesn't matter what they change. What I set is what I set. And you can actually go through and parse through all the information and update them that way. Now, I've gone blurbing a lot about servers and systems. This gets a little difficult too. I want to point out another real big issues with working with the workshop is you have to like manually load in the files every time in the custom game mode. You can't just go start server and run all these configurations. You have to have them as a custom code, or if you make a change to it, you copy them into the game, and you have to be in the lobby, and you have to, there's a lot of these like really tiring steps that the average programmer or the average developer really shouldn't have to deal with. Now, where does this come back to? And I know I've done a lot of complaining about like just the systems and setup, and hopefully getting people like a view on what this looks like from the back end in terms of being a workshop developer. But what do we want? What should we want and what we should demand? Should we demand for? We need custom servers and we need modding. The argument isn't 6v6. The argument isn't hitbox sizes. The argument isn't hero balance. It isn't self-healing. It is none of that. Because what happens is when you build a product that can then be used as a later service, you now open up the doors for people to build things that bring other people in. As I mentioned at the very start, if I buy a truck, I'm not just buying that truck because it's fun and it gets me from A to B. If I buy that truck and I build a whole business off of that truck, then I can buy more trucks. I can get more trucks, right? Then I can buy more things from the product. And other people depend on those trucks. And now we're delivering food with those trucks. And now not only do I depend on the trucks, but the people I'm delivering food to depend on the trucks. And they require people to buy trucks. So then you get this like cycling economy of software systems that constantly build off of each other and create dependencies off of each other. So you have a constant inflow of people through incentives that are not built by the company. Just open the gates, open the floodgates, and people will come. They will build the things that they want to build. It gets much more complicated with server management and stuff like that, but in the end, this is kind of like the final boss that we have to defeat. Because in our world, we should have Overwatch. Overwatch should be the foundation for most FPS games in terms of how it feels and how it plays. The Overwatch engine itself isn't the Overwatch game. It is not the game. The game, the board that chess is made on isn't the game. It is all of the pieces combined and how they're placed on the board. But the problem is Blizzard not only defines the board and the chess pieces and the rules, every single time they make an update, they throw your board away. Let's say you're a woodworker and you're creating a beautiful chessboard, right? And you need to make it exactly to spec. But by the time you're finished creating your beautiful chessboard, they've created a whole new version of chess, and then you literally have to throw yours away. It's not that you're making your new board from scratch. You're literally building it around the existing game, the existing service. Now, if this is one thing, or if there's one thing I just want to get everybody to understand from this, is that people will do the work if there are the incentives. And the incentives have to be easily enough to maintain that it becomes worth it. Because if it's not worth it, if every single time for example, we just had the tank head hitboxes have a decreased percentage in terms of damage. If every time something like that changes, and I have to where's my Discord? Let me get, this is so frustrating. I'm gonna call you, and I don't even know, I don't think that anybody else is, actually, yeah, anyways, I don't think it matters here. I'm going to show off some real people that have to work on this goddamn code and this goddamn system, and that a bunch of Blizzard developers have been totally demolishing and destroying, at least within their intent and their structure, with keeping things tight-knit. It's not the developers who create the balance changes that's the issue. It's the CTO, the guy who's making the decisions as to how the code is released and how it's introduced to the community, that is the problem, that doesn't give a shit about what Toasty's doing here, about what XD's doing, I know Cactus Puppy is another person that, not in this project directly, but there's someone that we work around. There's Lemonhead who's in this project. There's a large group of people so far that have been working very, very hard, but they have to maintain a retarded code base. I'm sorry about that word. I got to use it. It is just absolutely ridiculous how nothing works consistently. And every single time a intern at Blizzard decides to take a shortcut on their code, that these guys have to take time out of their day to go in to undo that stupid issue and re-add it back in such a way that they think it's a balanced system. Let them have their own game. Let them create their own game. Let them create their mods. I am begging you, Microsoft, not Blizzard, because Blizzard has not done a very good job at opening themselves up. And I want to point out too, when I first started playing Overwatch, they were all like, we like mods. We're the ones who allowed people to create StarCraft mods, but they never allowed any of it for this freaking game. They never did. Which, this is one thing, I'm gonna just end on this. Blizzard likes to take all the credit for saying things, for giving lip service to things, but they never take any of the responsibility for it because they don't have any competing developers. The Roblox team has to constantly keep themselves on their toes. They have to constantly keep themselves updated on how Roblox works, how people are interacting with Roblox, to be able to allow people to build products using their product, right? There's competition there. There's a consistent forward momentum of developers having to get better and respecting each other and reducing friction. Reducing friction is a huge thing here, because the more friction there is, the less someone's going to want to work on your project. So Blizzard, please, if anything, if I get one damn Blizzard developer through this video, which probably won't happen, but that's okay. We're gonna beg them. And if you guys know a Blizzard developer, send them this damn video, please. I get actively frustrated. Like I say, it's a beg to Microsoft. We need to open these systems up. We will build the Overwatch that you guys want. You guys can build whatever system you want. That's totally fine. But we'll build it. You can steal it. Just steal it. Steal the ideas. Steal the ideas. Figure out what your community wants to play and then directly steal their ideas. We're okay with it. We're happy with it. We need you guys to take advantage of the intelligent people that are working hard to make Overwatch custom games and Overwatch systems a success. And it feels like you all have abandoned us. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be in this Overwatch train if I feel like Blizzard is continuously abandoning me and abandoning the people that I love and abandoning the games that I love. Well, they don't need to. They don't need to abandon anything. Just give us a snapshot, a static image of the game that we can run that maintains the way that we want to play the game. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this is a big rant video, kind of again, off the cuff, whatever thing, but I appreciate everything. Of course, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. If you know any Blizzard developers, send them this video. A lot more. I know it's a big bundle of all sorts of stuff, but this is the video, the number one video for all this information. Hopefully we can make this a little more concise at some point in time, and put it into a way that's not just a random guy rambling, but the rambles matter. Everything I said here matters a lot. I love you guys. Love you too, Bird. I will see you all later.